and everyone else is secondary and tertiary. Are you with me? We are talking about moving to a state of consciousness where we realize the truth of our being and where we realize the truth about God. It is in this consciousness, in this realization of our oneness with God, that we can truly experience the peace of God and the comfort of God in our opening statement for today. What does it say? It says the transcendent spirit of Christ is in me. Transcendent. It transcends all other things and all these things that we may be going through on a day-to-day basis. It transcends all of that. And it's within me. And because of it, because I realize it, then I am poised, confident, and at peace. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. My friends, we are talking about journeying to Jerusalem. Palm Sunday is about our journey to this point in consciousness. And when we get to a point of peace, use the term peace of mind, then that evolves into poise and serenity, and then maybe even happiness. Because when you are at peace, then you are content and you can feel happiness. Is that true? Yes. When you are at peace, when you have peace of mind, then you can be happy and even go beyond happiness to experiencing joy. We are talking, my friends, about raising our consciousness to the level where we can experience the joy and the peace that we were created to live. Jesus, as they were traveling, sent two of his disciples to the next town, and he told them to do something. And in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 11, and I should add that this journey that Jesus took is recorded in all four of the Gospels. And each Gospel writer gives a little bit more, a little different information about this journey and about what it means for us. Unfortunately, we don't have the time this morning to go into each of the four Gospels to talk about this triumphant entry of Jesus into Jerusalem. However, we'll look at Mark. And in Mark 11, chapter 2, Jesus tells his disciples, he said, go into the village opposite you, and as soon as you have entered it, you will find a colt tied on which no one has sat. Loose it and bring it. And if anyone says to you, why are you doing this? Say, the Lord has need of it. And immediately he will send it here. Jesus had planned this journey. And he had already worked out that the colt would be there and that people would say, well, why are you untying this colt? He had already prepared that. And my friends, what that signifies to us, which is very important, is that even though we are on a spiritual path and even though we are talking about elevating our consciousness above and beyond and transcending all those outer things that may try and hold us back and all those people that may try and get in our way, even though we are in this elevated state of consciousness, or at least striving to be in this elevated state of consciousness, it is still necessary for us to do some preparation on the human, material, physical level, which is what Jesus did in this case. The colt had never been ridden before. This colt metaphysically symbolizes our human level, our physical level, our lower nature, the ego. It symbolizes that part of us that looks outside of us for satisfaction and fulfillment. It symbolizes that part of us that only puts emphasis and energy into those things on the outer level, only puts value on those things that can be seen and touched and tasted and felt, only those things that can be perceived by the physical senses. It relies on and is motivated purely by the five senses, which means that if it looks good, tastes good, feels good, it must be good. Those of us in the spiritual consciousness understand that that isn't true. However, this is what the cult represents. My friends, we talk about Lent and giving up something during Lent. We talk about giving up negative thinking. And we also talk about giving up things, maybe an item of food or an outward worldly pleasure. Jesus, writing on this cult that had not been written by anyone else, an untamed cult, if you will, which can be very stubborn and very unruly. Jesus doing that represents in us being able to, even if only during Lent, us being able to curb our urges for this or that. And if any of you, I'm not going to ask for a raise a show of hands, but if any of you gave up anything during Lent, I can imagine that you had the urge to go and do that thing or take that thing. Can somebody nod maybe? The urge was there, but if you were strong enough within and diligent enough and prayerful enough, you were able to resist that urge. My friends, Jesus writing on this cult, this untamed cult, represents within us the ability to overcome those urges, those things, those ideas that tell us that we can't do this and we can't do that, and we don't have enough of this or that. We really have to work with ourselves, my friends, so that we can indeed overcome those things. So this journey on Palm Sunday morning represents a journey in our own consciousness, in our own life, a journey of overcoming. Jesus himself represents the I am consciousness, the consciousness of an awareness of your and mine oneness with God. Jesus said, he said, the Father and I are one. Jesus represents that consciousness of a oneness with God. And when you know and you realize that you are one with God and you can do all things, what that means is that you can overcome whatever urges, whatever negative feelings that may come your way. That even if the feeling, even if it seems so real to you, my friends, in your oneness with God, in your journey to Jerusalem, in your journey to a greater and higher consciousness, you realize and know deep within the very depths of your soul that you will indeed be victorious, regardless of outer appearances and regardless of the odds, regardless of the opposition. My friends, we can all say that the Father and I are one. Jesus writing on this colt represents us taming our passions and putting them into a proper context. Because if you notice in the quote that we read, the statement from Jesus, where he says that if anyone says to you, why are you doing this, in terms of taking the colt, that his disciples should say, the Lord has need of it.